I have a newsflash for you today, and that is that all California state universities have done away with the SAT because they are racist. So, where does that leave our kids in special education in terms of the assessment process? That's what I'm going to be talking about today, parents. This is my part 5 of how to prepare for the IEP process, how to understand what that process is so you can win what your child needs during IEP meetings. So the IEP process is the protocol that districts use to develop special education programs, and that it is how the school district determines FAPE, a free and appropriate public education for your child. So parents, if you don't know that IEP process, then you won't be awarded. I don't know what's happening here, parents. Something's messing up here. I'm sorry. I'm getting a call in, that's why. So if you don't know the IEP process, parents, you're not going to be successful at your IEP meetings, and you're not going to understand the development of how they make those decisions to give you the services and supports that your child needs to be successful in school. So the IEP process is a 5-step process, and I taught in depth on the process several weeks ago. If you go back on the page, Advocates for Angels page, and you can find the 5-step IEP process where I taught in depth. So I'm not going to teach in depth on that today. I'm going to teach more in depth on special education and the more of the mindset of special education and the where they're coming from. Because if you don't know who your opponent is, you're not going to win. But the 5-step process is, step number 1 is assessment. So assessment is the first thing that they do to determine eligibility for your child for an IEP, what your child's baseline is for their present levels of performance, and then how to write the goals based on the baselines, and then the goals drive the services you receive for your child, and those services drive the placement for your child. So assessment is what I was relating to. If all California state universities have done away with the SAT, then where does that leave our kids in the assessment process? Because parents, what you have to understand is the assessment process is everything when it comes to the IEP. It's the foundation to how to develop and build the IEP. And if your child doesn't assess properly in terms of, well, I can't say your child doesn't assess properly, it's the other way around. The assessment process is broken because it doesn't actually show us what our children are capable of. Most kids can't take tests. Most kids with special needs cannot show us through an assessment what they are capable of, what their present levels are, what their IQ is, and what their ability levels are, because it is an intellectual test, and it's also an academic test. And if your child has sensory integration disorder, auditory processing disorder, vision processing disorder, ADHD, a speech and language disorder, on and on and on. If your child has those things, a reading disability, then how on earth are they going to be successful in taking an assessment? So if we're doing away with the SAT in state universities in California, and probably most likely it's going to follow suit in the rest of the country, then how on earth, what is it going to do for kids in special ed? Do you think they're going to change the assessment process in special ed? No, they are not going to change it, parents, because the assessment process is how they hold the power of the funding, how to deny services for kids based off of an assessment that doesn't really give our children the opportunity to open the doors to get what they need in special education. That's one of the reasons why special ed is a broken system, because they use the assessment process. Now, the other thing is, parents, is if you don't understand those assessments, if you don't understand what they say, what they mean, those standardized test scores, then you're going to be at a disadvantage in advocating for your child to get the services they need in the IEP meetings. So I wanted to start out with that. That was a lot, but I have a lot to say today. So before I move on, please like and share this video, parents. Please click that like button and please share. Sharing is caring. Share with your fellow parent of a special needs child who needs this information so they can help to get their child the IEP that their child needs as well. Also, leave your comments. I love to hear your comments, parents, on what you think about this information, if you have any questions that you'd like me to clarify for you, and any topics that you want me to start talking about in the future on my Facebook Lives. So let's move on with this topic that I have today, which is usually actually an overview of, I'm trying to get across to you, parents, why the system is the way it is, why the system is broken, why it's set up to be adversarial, why we can't win in IEP meetings, why do they say no when our child needs a service. So that's going to be the topic of today, which is also bleeds into the whole concept of how to understand the IEP process, okay, because it's the overarching reason why how the IEP process works. So the hidden truths about special education. So the first thing I want to tell you, parents, is in my area here in Southern California, most SELPA directors of large districts, large SELPAs, that SELPA director is making $500,000 a year in their salary. And that salary comes out of special education funding. And do you know what else comes out of special education funding? The legal counsel, the attorneys that work for that school district. And the legal counsel that work for that school district, do you know what they do? They train the administrators and the teachers and the service providers and everybody else that work with special ed kids, the principals at school site. They teach them how to deny services for your child. They teach them how to mislead you, misguide you, intimidate you, coerce you, and give you mistruths, half-truths, and actually lie to you in a really, really nice way. So they train everybody how to do that. And why is that? Because special education is a bureaucratic institution, and bureaucratic institutions want to have power and control over everybody that's beneath them. And guess where we are, parents, as the parent? We're at the bottom of the pyramid of that power and control, because it starts at the top with the administrators of the district office at the top, and then it moves down to the school site administrators, which moves down to the teachers, which moves down to the students, and we're not even in that pyramid, parents. We're not there. We're not a stakeholder, because we're not a student. We're an outsider. So even though IDEA says we are equal IEP team participants, they look at us as an outsider. Even though IDEA says that we have the right to be included in every decision that's made for our child regarding our child's IEP, they look at us as an outsider, because we are the parents, and we should just go home and parent and let them do the educating. But that's not what IDEA says, parents. And parent rights under IDEA and state law give you a whole lot of power that they don't want you to know about. And that's why I'm doing these lives, so I can relay to you what that power is and how to use that power. So the school district is like having a relationship with an entire IEP team of narcissists, and you are being gaslighted on a regular basis at IEP meetings. So that's really what IEP's meetings are like. These people are act like narcissists. It's all about them. It's about what they think, what their professional opinion is, how they were trained to deny and delay services for your child. And when you try to say something or come back with something or ask for something, you get gaslit by people on the team, because they'll say things to you like, oh, but we just care so much about your child. We care so much about little Joey. And they'll tell you some really heartwarming little story about your child, that was something that they did the other day, which again will warm our heart because we're a mommy. And oh my gosh, that's such a cute story. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Oh, they really do care about my kiddo. Or they'll say things like, well, this is a classic. This has been going on. I've been doing this for 24 years, and I must have heard it 10,000 times. Oh, we just care. We just want the best for your child. We just want the best for your child. Well, do they think that parents don't want the best for their child? And guess what? They really don't want the best for our children, because if they did, they would give us what our child needs in the IEP. And they are really good at saying no. So, that's a classic too. They'll say things like, when parents want to ask for goals, they'll say things like, well, we don't want to overwhelm your child with too many goals. You don't want to overwhelm your child now, do you? You don't want to put all that pressure and demands on your child with so many goals, do you? Of course, gaslighting us, kind of, manipulating our heartstrings as a parent. They're really good at that. And the other thing, a classic is, we don't want to pull your child out of class and miss academic instruction in order for them to get speech and language. We don't want to pull your child out of class so they can go get some service that they need, some therapy that they need. Early intervention, you guys, early intervention is the key to making sure your child can reach their potential in life. Those invaluable, precious years from 0 to 7, if you get your child intensive, consistent, the appropriate therapy and intervention your child needs, your child is going to be much more likely to reach their potential later on in junior high and high school and be able to close that remedial gap. So they're stealing those precious years from you, and especially from your child, by denying and holding off and delaying and saying, oh, we want to wait on this goal, or no, we don't want to give your child 3 hours of 3 half-hour times a week of speech and language, because we don't think they need that much, even though the child's nonverbal or has extremely limited skills, language skills. They don't want to give the services, the speech services that child needs, because, well, we don't want to pull your child out of class that much. Do you really want your child missing academic instruction, Mom? Again, moms pulling on our heartstrings, and of course we wouldn't want that, would we? Well, yes, if your child needs services, then your child should get services. And it's their responsibility to make up that academic instruction. So these are some of the things that are the gaslighting statements that they will do to parents. The IEP meeting can be a form of psychological warfare used to confuse and coerce parents by causing fear and emotional distress. And that's exactly what it does. Parents, a lot of parents have PTSD from IEP meetings because it's so emotional. It causes so much emotional distress. They use coercion tactics, and it is a form of psychological warfare. It's almost abuse of parents in some of these IEP meetings, because it's so intense and parents are so emotional, and they deny services, and while they're smiling at you and telling you how much they care about your child, they're smiling at you while they're telling you, oh no, I'm sorry, we can't give you 3 times a week of 30 minutes of speech and language, even though we just got an IEE that recommended 4 times a week of speech and language for your child. Why won't they give the services, parents? Because the funding, because they want power and control over parents, because they don't want to spend the money on our kids, even though they have millions and millions of dollars in their budget. They have the money. The money is being given to corrupt lawyers and overpaid administrators. So the other thing is that parents, we are programmed as children. Societal norms program us to respect and to believe educators and administrators are principal. It's like when, we were back in school and we got in trouble from our principal or our teacher because we did something wrong. So when you go into an IEP meeting, many parents are scared. Many parents are intimidated because they feel like, oh, am I really allowed to say something back to the principal at my school site? Am I really allowed to disagree with a district director? Yes, you are, parents. Yes, you are. Under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, you are allowed to advocate for your child. You are allowed to step up and protect your child's rights because they are misguiding you and misleading you and not giving you the full truth and the information. You are not fully informed about your child's rights and what is available to your child. And this is the truth about what's happening in IEP meetings. So they also, this is another way they gaslight parents, is they make you feel like, well, you should be grateful and you shouldn't be complaining that we look at how much we're giving you. Look at what we're doing for your child. Your child has behaviors. Your child throws a tantrum in the classroom, and you want more. You're asking for more. Well, look at what we're already giving you. I remember when Chanel was in grade school, and I asked for a one-on-one aid for her. And my program specialist said to me, "So Valerie, so what you're saying is that you want the district to pay all that money for a one-on-one aid for your child and take away all that money for others from other students?" She asked me that question, and that's exactly what she said. Take away, she told me I was be taking away funding from other students who needed it. And this is a flat out lie. This is, if your child is eligible for services, for supports, for a program, for a placement, for whatever it might be, it's not taking away anything from any other children. There is plenty of funding to go around to meet the needs of kids in special education. They're just using it improperly. It's not going to our children. So, these are some of the things, how they coerce, manipulate, and gaslight parents in IEP meetings. Um, so, when they do this kind of stuff I was going back to the thing where we actually are kind of intimidated to say something because we've been taught, everyone's raised to respect your teachers, to respect your elders, to respect the administrators at the school site. And parents are afraid. Parents also are afraid to advocate, to disagree, to stand up against their denials because they're afraid that their child might get retaliated against, or that they're not going to be liked. They're not going to like that parent. They're not going to like me if I turn into a problem parent. If I'm disagreeing with them, they're not going to like me. Well, parents, let me tell you something. When they're not going to like you either way. Okay, it's going to be damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if you are an informed and knowledgeable and powerful parent advocate, they're not going to like you, but they're going to respect you. Now, if you're a parent who's not informed, who doesn't know your parent rights, who doesn't know how to advocate for your child, they laugh at you. They laugh behind your back because they know that they can just tell you anything because you don't know. Because you don't know, you're not informed. You have no idea how to ask questions, how to get clarification on something, how to disagree with something. They can tell you basically anything, which they do, and they will, because they know that you're not an informed parent. And so either way, they think, like I said, we're an outsider. We're just the parent. We should just go home and parent while they educate our children and deny services and do things like place kids in misplaced classrooms like severely handicapped classes. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So parents, this is, you got to understand, this is a legal game, And if you don't know the rules of the game, you're not going to win. So what I mean by legal is that it is run by that IEP process that I taught about. Go back and find that IEP process. Facebook Live I did. It's the 5 steps of the IEP process. And it's run by assessment. That's how they determine, that's how they build IEPs. So when you start learning the rules of the game, you're going to start winning. And when you start understanding how the school district thinks and how special education works, you're going to start winning. So parents, if you want to be empowered and you want your child to be educated equally to their typical developing peers, then you need to learn your parent rights. So this is a human and civil rights issue, parents. That is exactly what it is. That's why I opened it with, if Cal States are going to take away the SAT, then why aren't they going to do away with assessments for special ed kids? They're not going to, because that's how they keep the power and control. That's how they keep the denials going. That's how they keep the institution bureaucracy intact. They're not going to do away with assessments for our kids, but they're going to do away with assessments going to college because it's racist. Well, what about our kids? That's discrimination against our children. That's segregating our kids in special ed classrooms that they shouldn't be put in. So, our kids are not second-class citizens. Our kids have equal rights to typical developing peers. Our kids have equal rights to get an education, just like a typical developing peer has a right to get an education. Yet, they will place kids in severely handicapped classrooms, which are classes that do not teach a real curriculum. They're not taught math, they're not taught reading, they're not taught writing, they're not taught anything but functional skills. They have a functional skills program. And kids that did learn to read and did learn to write and did have academic skills, once they're put in a severely handicapped class, they forget all of that because they don't focus on those things. They focus on functional skills. It's basically a babysitting class is what it is. So when my daughter was little, they wanted to put her in a severely handicapped class, which it's called the autism classroom. So if you ever go into a severely handicapped class, in grade school, it looks a little different than junior high and high school. But in grade school, it basically looks like a class that is like they treat those kids like they're just little animals. Okay, they have them separated. It's not set up as a typical classroom. An autism class for severely handicapped, they're doing discrete trials throughout the day. And discrete trials is when they do a trial, which is that they're teaching one thing, that they do it over and 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 over until that child masters that one little thing. Like, show me the red ball. Show me the red ball. No, try again. Show me the red ball. Try again. Show me the red ball. And they have centers where they go from center to center to center to center, and they have aides that do these trials on the kids all day long. They're behaviorally training them like a dog, because it's Pavlovic theory, which is what they're doing on our kids. They're training them to be compliant. They're training them to be in a little box that they want to put them in. And it's actually, I think, child abuse, and it should be done away with. Other severely handicapped classes in junior high and high school, they're going to look a little bit different. If it's an autism class, it could still look like a discrete trials class. However, they're still not going to be teaching them how to read, write, do math, or learn about history or geography or anything else that looks like a curriculum that kids would be learning in junior high or high school. So our kids are not less than. Our kids have gifts and talents. Our kids have so much to offer the world. Don't let them say, Well, your child is performing consistent with and commensurate with their IQ. There again, the assessment comes up. So they're going to throw the IQ in your face. If your child has a below average IQ, they're going to throw that in your face, and they're going to say that they're going to use that to discriminate and segregate your child. Again, the assessment, they use those insufficient assessments as a way to deny services for your child and to segregate and discriminate against your child. So, most kids with special needs have what's called sensory integration disorder. They've got something going on with sensory integration. Vast majority of kiddos on IEPs with disabilities. And they don't want to address sensory integration. They don't want to admit to it, they don't want to assess for it, and they don't want their occupational therapist to identify it, because sensory integration is a huge component to our kids and why they can't learn, why they can't focus, why they have a hard time, why they have behaviors, why they might be holding their ears and screaming, why they might be wanting to elope out of the classroom, why they can't hold a pencil, why they can't learn in the classroom. Yet they want to approach it as it's a behavior. Oh no, we have to retrain this child with a behavioral approach, when it's really a sensory integration disorder, because their sensory system is not modulating properly, and they need sensory integration therapy through an occupational therapist. Yet it's like pulling teeth to get districts to provide sensory integration therapy through occupational therapists. So I just want to give you, as we come to a close here, an amazing example of a story that says it all and puts the icing on the cake of my Facebook Live today. And it's a story about, his name is Dylan. And Dylan, when he just had entered from 6th grade, and he went into 7th grade. He just entered 7th grade, and his mom hired me. And they wanted to place Dylan in a severely handicapped class in junior high after grade school. And his mom had 2 doctorates, and she also is a professor at a university. And she hired me, and she said, I'm not putting my child in a severely handicapped class. He's smart. He can learn. They don't understand how smart he is. He was on the spectrum. He had very limited verbal skills, and he was not doing well in school at all because they weren't meeting his needs. He didn't have a good IEP. So I worked with mom since the beginning of 7th grade, all the way till Dylan graduated, and he graduated last week. And he was not placed in a severely handicapped class. He remained on the diploma track. I developed his IEP to get him everything he needed, included sensory integration, occupational therapy. And when he got into high school, we discovered that Dylan is almost like a savant in math. I mean, the math teacher, he took all the highest level math classes, trigonometry, all of them. And the math teacher said that he was the highest student he's ever had in his whole school career. And he was so high that the teacher had Dylan be his assistant in the classroom. His assistant that would grade the tests and grade the assignments. And Dylan still, even to today, is very limited in his language, but he learned to type, and now he's communicating through typing. He's highly intelligent, and he lettered, and he graduated with honors. So it's a huge success story, and it shows that we are not. If you don't know this, parents. Yeah, can you imagine what would have happened if he would have been placed in a severely handicapped class, this kiddo? He would have never accomplished this. We would have never known how smart he was. We would have never found out what his skills were in math. And he would have never graduated with a diploma. He's going to go to college. All of these doors wouldn't have opened for him. He wouldn't have blossomed in his education, in his communication, in everything. Throughout the rest of his junior high and high school years, and his future would have been stolen from him because everyone would have thought that he was intellectually disabled and not capable. And so this is what they do to children's lives, parents. And if you're not aware of your parent rights and you don't understand this, they're going to do it to your child too. So this is the gravity, parents, of you learning your parent rights and you understanding the IEP process and special education. So parents, I have a parent group. It's called the Parent Brigade. And I highly recommend that over the summer, while you're recharging, because it's like, phew, it's finally the end of the school year and we're so happy because it's over. I'm happy too because I'm exhausted. And we need to take a break, right, parents? But you can still strengthen your advocacy skills this summer. So you're going to be ready to go when the new 2021-2022 year begins. And the Parent Brigade would be an amazing way for you to be able to connect with me twice a month. We have 2 live calls twice a month. I also give you curriculum so you can study and start learning your parent rights. And the Parent Brigade is on my Advocates for Angels page, as well as my Special Education Parent Empowerment Network group page that I also invite you to join, parents. If you're a parent of a child at an IEP, please answer those questions so I can let you in. Otherwise, I won't know who you are. And so parents, next week is going to be part 6, the last part of my 6-part series. And it's going to be, how does the least restrictive environment affect your child's class placement? So parents, thank you and God bless. And I will see you next Monday for my next Facebook Live.